This may be surprising, but I brought home another project that I am super excited about, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy. It's this right here. This is a Hotsy Model 550B hot water pressure washer. So if you guys have ever used one of these, you know why I'm so excited to have this one. When it comes to washing equipment and cutting through oil and grease and stuff like that, there are very few things that can do as good of a job as hot water. Now, because of that, hot water pressure washers are kind of expensive if you want to go out and buy one new compared to the $200 or $300 cold water units you can get at pretty much any home improvement store, but they're worth it. This one, well, this one was right in my price range because this one's kind of broken. In this video, we're going to go through it, find all the problems, fix all the problems, and get it working like it should be. So let's take a look at what this thing is. This is a very small hot water pressure washer. This one runs on 110 electricity to power the pump motor down here. It burns diesel or kerosene in the burner, but it has to have 110 electricity to do that. And that leads us to problem number one. The electrical plug is missing. Now that is certainly an easy fix, but it does not lend well to the condition of the rest of the machine. I think that is just going to be the start of our problem. One thing the seller did tell me about when I bought this thing was the pump leaks water. He said right down here between this bronze, whatever this manifold is, and this gray pump body, he said it was leaking water really badly and not making much pressure. So I'm expecting problems there. I'm expecting problems in a lot of other areas, but we're not going to know about that until we get a plug on it and get some water through it and see what happens. But to be honest, we don't even know if the motor on this thing is going to work. The guy said it did, but it's also been in storage for who knows how long, and when stuff sits, well, things tend to fail. Well, we're plugged into the wall, so when I flip the pump on here, this motor should run. That's not good. The motor tries to run and it hums, but it doesn't actually spin, which is pretty much exactly what I was worried about. Our pump, either our motor itself has failed or our pump is seized up. Of course, who knows? You know, it may not be a situation where somebody else worked on this, found the pump was bad and decided to dump it. This could have been working just fine until someone put it away for the winter and didn't drain it, and it froze and it seized. So let's take this oil plug out and then see what I'm going to have to do to actually get this pump collar off that motor shaft. I just want to see if it even has oil in it. I suspect it may not. It has something. I wouldn't really call it oil. I guess it was at one point. Certainly not any good now. I got a feeling this pump is done. Let's see if this motor will spin. Yep, motor's good. So before we go any further with our pump, we are going to see if our coil is leaking. There's the input to the burner coil. I've adapted that straight onto a garden hose. I'm going to run out here and turn the hose on. You watch for a leak, and if any water starts coming out, yell at me, okay? Cool. Oh, there's water. Oh, there's more water. Wow. That looks good. I never heard you yell. Come on, louder next time. We definitely have some leaking going on here. Remember when I said this pressure hose did not look very good? Yeah, that's because it's not very good at all. It's leaking there. It was leaking over here. Yeah, there it is. There's some leaking. But what I was super concerned about was down here, and I don't see water leaking from this burner coil. There's our last bolt. Let's see if this is going to lift off easily. It's moving. All right. All right, so let's come over here and take a look at this a little closer. Here's the inside of our pump. These are little ceramic looking deals. This one has the packing still on it. This one, the packing stayed in the end of the manifold. Let's take this thing apart a little further. So on the drive side of our pump, where it connects to the motor, you can see we're looking from the inside here, but this little spring pointing up used to be part of a double lip seal that would have held the oil in here, and you can see that seal is just junk. So I feel like this thing has probably been leaking oil for a while. Will it turn with everything removed? It will not. Let's remove the back. Yeah, I went to dump this in the drain pan, and that is just straight water coming out of there. That's really, really quite unfortunate. I did a little look, and it looks like most of the parts for this pump are available. So with some luck, we might be able to rebuild her. So here we are, we got the bottom off. This is a really simple design. You've got your motor connection right here. It turns basically a crankshaft right there. These two pieces here would be the equivalent of your connecting rods in an engine. They would move these two plungers right here up and down. That would pump the water. But as you can see, we have had a lot of water mixed with whatever oil there was, and something is very, very seized here. It could be these big end bearings. It could be whatever connections there are from the rods to this little crankshaft, or it could be something over here involving these plungers. When in doubt, hit it with a hammer. All right, that's actually doing exactly what we needed to do. Here's our crankshaft. It brought out the other end bearing with it. We'll get that off in a second. Set this to the side. Will our rods come out? And they do. Good deal. Check that out. That is a connecting rod for a pressure washer pump. If we look at this crankshaft a little closer, you can see, I guess it's more of a camshaft than a crank because it's got these lobes on it. But they don't appear to have had any kind of bushing or bearing material in there. They would have just been running in oil, and well, all that got contaminated with water and probably leaked out. Let's see this bearing. This bearing is locked up. I'm trying to turn it and it just does not turn. So that right there is a huge part of why this pump would not rotate. Is this other bearing any good? Not that it matters, we're gonna replace them both, but it's not any good either. See that? It just doesn't spin. After we disassembled the pump and found everything that was wrong, I ran out of time to work on this for a while. So I ended up taking the pump down to the local hot seat dealer, and they rebuilt it for me. New bearings, new seals, new everything. So now that we've got the pump back from the shop, we still have some things that we have to address because we haven't even talked about the burner system on this. And the pump itself, even though it's rebuilt and they've tested the pump and made sure it's good and all that stuff, there are some things on my machine that I don't like. And number one is right there. See how the pump is tilted, leaning, not at all secure? I don't feel like this is how this is supposed to mount. Now, if we look, there are 4 like threaded bosses on the bottom of the pump, but there are no bolt holes in the frame of the machine. I feel like this had a bracket at some point that got lost before I got it. So the next thing we need to do is roll this thing outside and test it. The pump should be good. The coil here, this, the big tank looking thing, this was not leaking when we tested it with pressure from the garden hose. Now we're gonna test it with pressure from the pump, and hopefully it still won't be leaking. We also need to test the burner itself. There's this little diesel or water pressure switch. It has to see water pressure in order to light the burner. And then there's going to be the igniter system and the injector system and all that we may have problems with. I expect problems with. But the first thing we need to do is drain all this old fuel out of here. Now this says there's maybe a quarter of a tank, third of a tank. I don't know if this thing is right, wrong, or indifferent. The drain pan wouldn't fit under it on the floor, so we gave it a little bit of a lift. Oh, boy, that thing. I'll be honest, that fuel doesn't look as bad as it could. It might have been okay, but better to drain it and be sure than try it and have some junk in there and create a bigger problem down the road. Might not have had to have done that, but certainly doesn't hurt my feelings that we did. Now let's put this drain plug back in so that it can never seal properly again. Hi. How in the world? I regret this. I regret this. All right, I'm going to sit here with the sun directly in my eyes just to explain this. That old hose was garbage. I bought a new one, but I don't want to hook it up until we run the actual pump on this coil and burner and crap and see if all that's going to work. So we should get water coming out of this port when I turn the hose on. We should get a lot more water coming out of that port when we turn the pump on. Water. Oh, that looks great. So I bought this hose on Amazon, and I will link to it in the description if any of you guys need a hose. It came with quick disconnect fittings, but I took them off. I don't have quick disconnect fittings to match the wand. So for now to test it, we're just going to run the wand straight threaded onto the hose. Once we get everything working, then I'm going to come through and redo a lot of this plumbing with quick connect fittings and a shut-off valve right here. I also don't have any tips for this, but again, just for testing purposes, that's okay. Seems to work. Alright. I have no idea if this will siphon out of this container or if it's going to have to be some sort of gravity feed system. Fingers crossed she'll siphon. If it even comes on. When we're running the burner and I hit the trigger on the wand, the burner shuts off. It comes back on as soon as I release the trigger and stop the flow of water. That makes me feel like we probably have an issue over here with our pressure switch. I'll have to do some research on that. The other thing I noticed is this smokes like crazy, worse than anyone I've ever personally used. I don't know how big of a deal that is, because if you look in there, there is a lot of dust and dirt and debris. I need to try to find some way to clean that out. And then also of concern is right here, this hole in the frame. I don't care about the hole in the frame, but I noticed when we had the hose turned on and I let go of the handle on the wand, you know, stopping the flow of water, water was coming out that hole. This hose. Why is this hose that comes off the bottom of this valve dumping water? Watch that. That doesn't really seem quite right now, does it? All right, it is starting to rain on me, but we have progress, and I really want to get this video done. I have been working on this, so I said I wanted to start and complete this project in one video, and we're doing that, even if the video kind of has taken 9 months. But I adjusted our blow-off valve here, for lack of a better term. I had to tinker with the unloader on the pump down here a little bit. But let me show you what we have now. Hose got tangled. Hi, Rika. So it's not the biggest pressure washer in the world. I mean, it's just a little 110 electric unit, but having this thing is going to make my life a lot easier. Hi. I do have the burner, which is incredible for cutting through a lot of grease and grime and stuff like that on machinery. You guys are going to get to see a ton more of that in upcoming videos. I got a couple projects sitting behind me I think you are really going to enjoy. But for now, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit the like button. That's my ball. It's my ball. No, it's mine. I want it. And you've got a grenade. Hey, out good. How can you see like that? Hmm?